Greetings everyone, time for a video. This is the start of a video about, I'm going to make a cart for my MFT, Festool MFT table. As you can see there, I have a lot of sustainers for tools and whatnot, and I have long wanted a cart like I've seen other people make them. So I've long had it planned to make one, and I picked up some plywood. This is 3/4 inch maple. The reason I picked this is simply because this is about all that was available at the local big box store. There's a couple of them, but this was it. And it was actually also surprisingly cheaper than what you might pay for regular, sandy ply or birch or even Luan plywood, which they didn't even really have in full-size sheets. So I picked this up. Surprisingly, it was around $60 a sheet, and here it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut first before I actually talk about the design. There's a couple of things and decisions I made when making mine that I would like to think make some sense when I cover them. So when I'm done cutting, I'll bring you back in and I'll talk about what I'm actually going to build and how that's all going to fit together. Anyway, I'll bring you back in. All right, I've cut my plywood. I've got two tops, center divider, two sides, and then 4 inner dividers. The way it's going to sit is it'll be, assume this is actually the cabinet, top, bottom, center divider running between side, side, divider, divider. Now it's going to be longer, as I said earlier, so that's how that's going to work. I'm going to use my Domino to join it. I might show a little bit of that when I actually get set up and start doing it. One thing to point out, in order to save on plywood, I actually went and took the 2 pieces that were left over from cutting the top and the bottom and used my Domino to join them together. You can see the seam, not quite perfect alignment, but it's okay. Read other people do something similar to save plywood, especially if it's not like something that's show wood or something like that. In other words, it won't be visible. Like let's say it's a back of a cabinet or something, they'll do that. I don't really care. This will be in the inside, and it'll make sense when I get it, but it'll be in the inside center divider and it'll be mostly hidden. And this is shop furniture, so I'm not really that concerned about looks. And I'm not worried about any problems with strength because all the load is going to be vertically on this, so it should work pretty well. Anyway, I'm going to go and get started on cutting some dominoes so I can start prepping to join this thing. All right, everything is cut out, center divider. That's the bottom, top, one of the inner dividers. 2 more inner dividers, 1 more inner divider sides. Also get everything marked out for the dominoes. There'll be divider, divider, center divider, all my marks, so forth. Lots of marks, including some that I had to scratch out because I got a little zealous in marking. The domino size I'm going to use is 6 by 40 millimeters, so that's 6 millimeters thick by 40 millimeters long. The bottom and top are going to have dominoes that are going to be short depth, meaning I'm only going to drill in 15 millimeters. And to give you an idea of why that's important, so this is 40 millimeters long, so if you split it half and half and did 20 like you normally expect, well, you're probably going to punch through the wood, the plywood, and I don't want that. So y'all set it a bit, 15 millimeters, which means that into, say, the divider, the sides, and so on, it's going to sit a little deeper, 25 millimeters. And then that's pretty normal. The only other things I can think of to point out are that I'm going to do all of the domino holes in the top and the bottom are going to be standard width, meaning that they're going to be the same. The holes will be the same width as the domino. And then for all of the dividers and the sides, I'll have one that's like, say, closest to the edge will be a standard, and then the rest will be wide. And what that means is it'll allow me to allow one lineup, and then the rest of them won't really matter, which will be fine. And that's really about it in terms of, other points to note. I'm going to use the pieces to actually mark and kind of act as a fence. What you do, and you've seen this probably in other videos which have done an excellent job at explaining how to do it. Kind of use, you set your line, and you use the mark to say this is where the center line is for each domino, and then you use the mark, and just give you a rough idea, but use the mark to put it in there, and plunge, so on. And that's about it. So I've got a lot of mortises to cut for all these dominoes. In fact, I don't know, I'll count them when I'm done, and you can, if I remember, and I'll tell you how many I have. Anyway, that's the next step, off to cutting. I'll bring you back after that. All right, I've drilled all my domino holes, as you can see. This is the bottom, top sitting behind it. Divider, look on the edges, you can sort of see, got them. And then sides, they're along there, and then of course here's the inner dividers, and they've got their domino holes cut. Everything's looking pretty decent. The next couple of things I need to deal with are, I need to drill the hinge holes in both sides of the dividers, and actually I'll use the through bit for that, so I'll just plunge right through them. And then I'll also have to do it on the sides, and those will need to be just one half. You won't go through all the way with those. I don't have balance panels, but that's not a problem because the drawer slides are, and actually would be this way, to give you an idea of why it's not important. As long as I reference from the bottom or the top, the same edge on all four panels, it's not really going to matter. And normally, you can kind of care about balance panels or not. I do think it's kind of important, but it's not really going to matter too much for a few reasons. Like I said, registering them on the bottom is one part. The other thing is, hang on, let me pull this out for you. There are a couple of holes which take care of it. You're supposed to drill, it's 37 millimeters is your minimum distance, which lines right up, kind of hard to see. Let me pull the light over for a second here so you can see this. 37 millimeters ends up being, you can see that ends up being about right where it should be. So the other reason why it doesn't matter, 37 millimeters from this side, I've got some play here with this slot. And if you've watched the Festool LR32 video from Sedge, he talks about how all the door slides nowadays, mostly, I mean, I guess someone could still make some that aren't compatible with a 32 millimeter system, but these are, and these are Lee Valley self-closing hinges. I'm sorry, self-closing drawer slides, and they work pretty well. I don't really have any other issues with this other than just as long as I make sure to register all in the same spot for all of them. And then it'll be 37 front, 37 back. It'll be fun. And then I'm going to actually plunge everything all the way up. Of course, I have to start 80 millimeters from this represents kind of the bottom, and then you'd have the side, and then you'd have the same thing on the top up here. So it'll be 80 millimeters from here, and then I'll plunge all the way up 2 columns. That'll take care of all the potential positions for the hinges. I'm sorry, for the holes for the slides, so it's no big deal. I've had my eye on the LR32 for a long time. I've actually had a holy rail. They actually don't provide these normally anymore. This is the 1080. Now it's the larger 1400 length that you can buy. But you can, I think, still get these as custom cut. It used to be this was the standard size you picked up. I just have never really had a need for it, but I was thinking about this project to some others, so I picked it up about 6 months ago. So we'll see how it goes for me on this. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to probably use pocket holes in a couple of spots. I mean, technically it's not really needed, but I'm going to have, if you think about it, I'm going to have this is the front, and then this will be like the center divider here. Then I want to have like a pocket hole here and a pocket hole here. Run a couple of pocket screws in, just to kind of pull them tight together. I mean, all the support for this is really going to be in the dominoes, but kind of want a little something, just kind of give it a little snug, maybe a little bit. Probably not try to do too much, but because I've been trying to be pretty precise, though of course there's always imperfections to get it so that they fit pretty snug, but I think things will work out pretty well if I just put a screw or two in. Not a big deal. Anyway, I'm going to set up for the LR32 and drilling the slide holes, and when I get that set up, I'll probably bring you back real quick just to show you just what my setup is, and then I'll plunge them back shortly. All right, just to revisit what I was saying a moment ago about how my setup was going to go from the LR32. Here it is. I'm set up. I've got set at 37 millimeters distance for both of the parallel stops. The end stop, I have it set for 16 millimeters. I have a piece of scrap, which is a spacer to represent, like, this is the bottom. So you have to imagine this is a divider, and it's sitting like so, and the bottom goes out like this and on the other side. Again, I don't really need to stop the top, and this isn't a perfectly balanced panel, so if I tried to put the stop in there, it would end up either being too much, which wouldn't work, or it would be short. But as long as you have a good reference and you always reference the same, consistently, it'll work. And the other thing is, with this piece of scrap, if you measure in from roughly where the scrap is and you count 3 holes, you end up at 80 millimeters, and which is where you want to be. So that's how the setup's going to work, and then I'm going to cut some holes now. All right, I've punched my holes through for all the system holes using the LR32. Worked out pretty well. Pretty impressed with it. Works pretty neat. Certainly pretty precise. You got to watch it. You can make a mistake pretty quickly if you're not paying attention. But all in all, it worked. Got the sides also punched too. One thing I am going to do, one final thing I'll do before I glue these up, is I'm going to put a couple of pocket hole screws in each divider, as well as the center divider on the end. So if you imagine, like, this is one of the inner dividers, and this is the front. This will be the top. This will be the bottom. I'm going to put, like, maybe a pocket hole screw here and here to go into the center divider, just to kind of pull it in a little tight. And I'm going to glue each edge, though there's not going to be that much glue going in, but since really all the strength is in the dominoes in the top and the bottom. But that's what I'm going to go take care of now, and then I'll bring you back. All right, everything's ready. I've got everything sanded. You can see, show you real quick, got just a few pocket hole, just like 3 on the, that's the center divider. Like I said, just a couple just to kind of pull it in after I start assembling. Anyway, now I'm going to start putting the dominoes in. This is the bottom, and then I've got the top over here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put glue and then tap them in. Pretty basic stuff. The reason I'm doing all of these is I'm going to put these in. These are all fixed width, meaning that they're standard width, meaning that the hole for the domino is the same size. And then for the dividers, what I did was on the edges, other than one on the end, they're all wider. So there's a little room for play, so it should go in pretty well. And other than this one at the front, which is kind of like a reference, everything else should have a little bit of leeway. So when I put the dividers in, I won't have any problems assembling. Anyway, I'm going to start knocking those in, and I'll bring you back in a bit. I'm back. I've assembled everything. As you can tell, I've got it. It is not. Normally it would be something like this. I've got it kind of on edge, or I guess you could say on edge. Got it on a cart with the rollers that I made some time ago. The thing went together pretty well. Had to persuade it a little bit with a mallet, but nothing that I'm not wasn't expecting. So far, everything went pretty decent in terms of it all lined up. There are a couple of issues I ran into, some gaps. I don't expect it to be perfect, but I like it to be pretty decent. You can see where I've got the pocket screws. That kind of pulled things a little tight in the horizontal directions. But everything went together pretty well. Wasn't that bad of an assembly, honestly. But this thing is pretty heavy. It's hard to move around. It's honestly about 1.5 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood, and that's not light. So next thing I'm going to do, I was debating, I was just going to leave the edges just like this. I mean, this is shop furniture, but I was thinking about it. I said, yeah, let me go and put some edge banding on. So I had to get some maple edge banding, iron on, your basic stuff. Going to edge band all these edges, just because, why not? And then I'm going to put a finish. I'm using Minwax polyacrylic, and this is what I'm going to put on it. I've used that before a few times, and I like it a bunch. Some time ago they had a clearance at local big box store for these. I'm not sure why, because they still sell it, but I don't know, maybe the formula changed. I don't know. Anyway, I was picking up a gallon for like about $11 each, so I have like 3 or 4 gallons of this stuff. Not a bad deal, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to go and do some edge banding, and then I'll bring you back. Well, I feel like a dope. I didn't order enough. I needed 50 feet, not 25 feet. So I'm just going to skip it. I'm not going to bother. I am going to sand a couple of these burn marks where I've got some saw issues, and maybe smooth out a little bit. But no edge banding for me. Anyway, I'll be back. All right, I have been putting finish on. As you can sort of tell, it's kind of a darker color. This is unfinished. This is the bottom, kind of the non-show side. Defects, all that sort of stuff. Had some veneer pop out a little bit, probably when I was moving, so I kind of put a little super glue there. I've sanded it down. Anyway, polyacrylic, I really like the way it goes on. It goes on pretty easily. Basically, it's brush it on, wait at least 2 hours until it dries, sand it with 220 grit, just the light sanding. Repeat, go as many times as you want. I'm going 2 coats. I'm not really that focused on too much protection, but 2 coats is enough. I've always liked the way it looks. It goes in pretty well, especially for light colored woods like this. Since I'm using, I'm going to use a 3-inch brush because you've got this big open space. I was using a 2-inch more on the inner pieces, or inner areas, sorry, to a little control in that regards. But this big open space, you want to use a bigger brush. Honestly, you could probably roll it on too. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward, and I'll bring you back. All right, this is the bottom. Showed you a bit ago. Put 2 coats polyacrylic. I'm not going to put any more in it. Looks fine enough. It's not perfect. There's some, looks like maybe some brush marks. I probably could do another sanding of the coat, but this is the bottom. I'm not really that interested in, not that concerned about the looks. Next thing is the casters, which I'll put on now, or next thing I'll put on. I'm hoping these are big enough. They're just some locking casters I picked up. I don't remember from where, maybe from Northern Tool. I have one in each corner. Not too worried about the middle. This is a pretty sturdy thing. Anyway, so those are coming in next, and I'll probably do right into the edge with these 2 screws. I'll probably just use screws in here, and then these will be probably short. Sorry, keep getting you out of frame there. These will be, so these 2 are going to be screws that'll go into the wood, and these 2 are going to be nuts and bolts. hopefully low profile, but I think I can do it so that have the bolt head here and then run the nut on the other side. And that'll hopefully keep these things in pretty good shape. Once I get those on, I'll show you, and then I'll flip it over and then do the top. Back shortly. All right, casters are on, all four of them. There's the, I guess they call them the skateboard style wheels. Got a couple of screws to go in the wood, and then these are some 1/4 by 20 machine screws, and then I have nuts and washers on the inside in the wood. 1 1/4 inch, a little bit higher than probably I'd like, but honestly the perfect height would be 1 1/8, but you don't really sell it. I could cut them short. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. If there's plenty of clearance between the bottom shelf and the top of the bolt, I'm not going to worry about it. So anyway, now I get the fun of flipping this thing over, and then I get to put a finish on the top. I'll bring you back in a moment. All right, I have skipped ahead a little bit. Put the finishes, I put 3 coats of polyacrylic on, and the finish is dried. It's actually dried overnight. I'm going to let it probably dry another half a day or a day, cure, harden up some before I put the MFT on top of it. This pretty much is kind of like the end of sort of part 1. I also went ahead and put, as you can tell, I just went ahead and plopped the sustainers in on this side, and then it's pretty heavy. Move it over here, and you can see on the other side, and I've still got a few extra, but I expected that, and the plan is to take some of these hardware sortainers, is what they call them, with the little drawers and stuff, and kind of make a separate thing for them. It's probably going to be like just, it's similar to what Festool used to offer, called a sysport, and I'll have like maybe casters or something, or it'll be something pretty small, but maybe a little taller, independent of this. But I'm pretty pleased with it. This is pretty much exactly what I'd hoped. I'll be able to fit everything in once I move these into their own. Thing. And the next steps are, of course, is to get the MFT on top of it, which is no big deal. But I want to make some stops or something to hold it in place. There's some few other things I'm going to do as well, and then I have to make all the trays and that are going to be used by these, or these door slides are going to be used with, and so I can put all the sustainers in that. Of course, there's the fun part of planning where these things go. Try to organize it in a straightforward manner. Right now I just kind of stuck in whatever fits where. As you can tell, it's kind of chaotic, but I'm pretty happy with this. I'm looking forward to taking advantage of it when I get the drawer parts, and I'll do a video for that, which will be kind of sort of a part 2, I guess. So anyway, that's it for this video, and kind of a not the best one, but just something I figure some people might find interesting on, you know, what kind of goes into building one of these, and lots of other people have built them. You can find lots of examples online of others who have done something similar, and this is just kind of my approach and my thoughts and what I've done. Anyway, that's it for this video, and thanks for watching.